empty house.
What's up, Brown Girl Tribe? Hey, y'all. Hey, welcome back to the Brown Girl from Boston YouTube channel. If you're new here, I'm so glad you stopped by. I'm your host, a proud first generation Bostonian, soulful storyteller, and soft life enthusiast because I feel like you should go from survival to thriving to a soft life, and there's nothing wrong with that. And today we're getting into my personal journey. How did a brown girl from Boston end up in Alabama? Because as you know, I'm a brown girl from Boston, but now I reside in Alabama. So let me take y'all back. As soon as I open my mouth, of course, I'm in the deep south. I'm not in mid Atlantic anywhere. In the deep south, so people already know that I'm not from Alabama. And of course, having southern roots, being a girl from up north, I was always the cousin who spoke proper or the cousin from up north, right? And so every time I open my mouth, my accent, the pace, because sometimes I can talk very fast. And I'm learning to slow down a bit. And also, to the energy that I carry, it gives Boston, New York, Philly, and I get a lot of you must be from New York. Like there's no other states besides New York that's in the Northeast. And every time it's just giving, as the young people would say, a East Coast girl. But while I may sound like I'm from the city, I'm deeply rooted in the South. And that's the story I want to share with you all because you all are probably like, I've been following this brown girl from Boston. I'm probably on social media. You probably see me at different HBCU games talking about HBCUs. And as you may or may not know, I attended and proudly graduated from my alma mater, Tuskegee University, TU, you know. Okay. So let's get into it. So I am what you call a first generation Bostonian. My parents are both from Alabama, a small town named Atmore, and it's in Escambia County. So it's about roughly 50 miles outside of Mobile and probably about like 45 miles outside of Pensacola, Florida. And, majority of both sides of my family live in this town or used to live in the town. And like so many Black families during the Great Migration, my parents left the South for better jobs, better schools, and just a better shot at life. So if you don't know anything about the Great Migration, pretty much those who were from the Deep South relocated to northern cities such as Detroit, Chicago, New Jersey, New York, Philly, because of racism. Also, too, you're talking about during a time in which, steel mills, car plants, and other factories were looking for labor and was paying well, right? So my parents decided to leave Alabama in 1970, and that's when my mom graduated from high school and my parents got married and moved to Boston. But even though they physically left Boston or Alabama, excuse me, they brought the South with them. So when I'm saying they brought the South with them, my parents ended up choosing Boston because of my great aunt was already living in Boston and how Black folks did it back in the day. They found a location in which they will move to, let's say, a Boston, and they would say, hey, we're going to relocate up there too. So it's pretty much like those who want to join us, come on and let's join. So, as Black people, we believe in collaboration, being collective. And so my parents brought a lot of our relatives and their friends from Alabama to Boston, Massachusetts. So my parents made it a point to raise my brothers and I with Southern roots intact. So, which means we came to Alabama twice a year. My mom worked for Polaroid, so her job was closed down 2 weeks out the summer and also 2 weeks for holiday season. And so we took those amazing road trips to Atmore, Alabama, which is about 24 hours. And my dad was the driver. His 1988, if y'all remember this, Oldsmobile, those things was amazing. And it felt like he was floating when my dad was driving. And he had these two cassette tapes, and I'm dating myself in which I know both of these cassette tapes back and forth. Bob Marley, Legend. So y'all know what the Legend album tape. That's all the best of Bob Marley. And Keith Sweat first album. I think it's with I Wanna on there, honey. I know both those tape CDs, songs, forward and backward. So just a little bit what I'm throwing in there. So despite me growing up in Boston, my parents didn't instill like with my cousins and everyone from the South the yes ma'am, no ma'am, because I think they're like, we're gonna get away from that. We did have Southern hospitality, manners and values in which, you can speak to folks, speak to elders, definitely respect your elders, respect people, and also too, just making sure that you're having manners and doing the right thing while you're in school in the neighborhood. So, right there in the heart of Boston. I grew up in Mattapan, so if anyone that is listening to this ever been to Boston, people probably heard of Roxbury because that's like the epicenter of Black culture. You talk about Malcolm X grew up in Roxbury, New Edition grew up in Roxbury, and I happen to have the amazing pleasure of going to high school in Roxbury. But I grew up in Mattapan, and I shout out Mattapan because it's mainly African American and a Caribbean neighborhood in Boston, in which 80% of Black folks own their homes. So shout out to Mattapan. Shout out to Hollingsworth Street. That's where I grew up at. So as I always tell people, I grew up with Southern values in the Northern City. And I have that dual identity, and it shaped me into who I am today because, sometimes I can be this Northern Southern belle. Sometimes if he really push the envelope, I could go straight Mattapan, right? So, that's the beauty of having that dual identity. So as I mentioned, taking the road trips, and sometimes it'll be 2, 3 cars deep. As far as when it comes to Alabama, it'll be like my uncle and aunt, my cousins, and my dad, my mom, and my brothers and I. And so it's a different vibe when you crossing the state line. I know we will leave Boston, let's say Christmas time. We leaving with our triple fat goose coats because it was mad cold. A snowstorm may have hit, and you're taking off your coat about time you're hitting the southern states, and you definitely taking off the coat when you're hitting Alabama because that heat was something else. And then also too, you're hearing the shifting of the accents. Now you're getting offering sweet tea instead of iced tea, right? And how I ended up enjoying and eventually leaving home at 18 years old to go to a HBCU is passing that sign that says Tuskegee University. And I remember being between the ages of 6, 7, or 8, saying to my parents, I want to go to that school, right? Mind you, I always been an old soul, grew up with older parents. My siblings and I are 12 and 14 years older, right? My siblings could be my parents. So, reading at an early age, and I'm like, oh, I want to go to that school. Had no clue about Tuskegee. Now, of course, you passed by Auburn University. It just probably wasn't a vibe for me. I was like, Auburn, but Tuskegee, it's something about that name. I'm going to go to that school, right? So it's pretty much, one of those prayers that you say to God, like, hey, I'm going to go to that school. So it's planting that seed. So I didn't know what it meant at the time, but I knew I wanted to go there. When I got older and the buzz around college side coming about, I was like, I'm leaving Boston. I'm going to an HBCU. And for those who don't know what an HBCU is, it's a historic Black college and university. My classmates will laugh at me and look at me like, girl, what you talking about? What you know about this HBCU? I'm sick of you talking about HBCU, and I'm sick of you talking about Tuskegee University. This is why it's so important to believe in yourself to the point you're being delusional. So I remember telling my friends, my teammates, I was about like ninth grade, like, oh, I already know what college I'm going to. I'm going to Tuskegee. And the confirmation happened in my 10th grade AP US history class, in which my teacher, Mr. Connolly, he had us read Up from Slavery by Booker T. Washington. And it was just it. When I read that book and it opened my eyes up about the philosophy of Booker T. Washington, how he was sent from Hampton Institute to Tuskegee and met with Lewis Adams, who is also the co-founder of Tuskegee. I was like, yo, I'm going to this school because of just the things that he did for Black people. It's him, Booker T. Washington, Lewis Adams, and also too George Washington Carver are alchemists. They turned nothing into legacy. I don't even want to say something into legacy, right? So I just knew I had to be a part of that legacy. Hence why I was like, that's it. I'm going to HBCU. And plus two, coming down south every year. And at a certain point, I would come down summertime and would spend my summers with my aunt, my uncle, my cousins. For those who may grew up in a Black household, y'all all 50 million y'all sleeping on the pallet in a bag, walking to the pool, playing outside. So, I actually know what outside is because I played outside. It wasn't no such thing as a cell phone, social media. You just outside playing with your cousins, shelling peas. Oh, I know how to do that. Hanging clothes on the line, having only a few TV channels. And at the time, my aunt loved soap operas. I do not like soap operas. And have to tell her, hey, this was happening on God and Light. I'm surprised I even remember the soap opera's name. I just knew that I had to come back to home or come back to my second motherland, which is Alabama. Okay. So, as I mentioned, we got over this, reading this Up from Slavery. I was sold. And it just, like I said, wasn't about going to college. It was about having this legacy and also to my junior year of high school. I went to Math and Science High School for those who are like, okay, what kind of high school you went to? And at the time, they used to have the Black College Fair. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go to the Black College Fair, see what's up. And it was at the Rutgers Lewis Center in Roxbury, so which was literally down the street from my high school. And I remember seeing all these amazing Black people with all these dope tables. And I was like, man, okay, this is what's up. Like, it's nothing but HBCUs. I'm sold. So I went to another school that I wanted to attend, Bethune-Cookman. And I got accepted on the spot, right? And I was so happy. I was like, oh, okay, because I applied to Bethune-Cookman. Hampton was another school because I was just fascinated about the history of Hampton because Booker T. Washington came from there. And of course, Tuskegee was my number one choice. So I applied to mainly HBCUs, and I think one PWI, which was Simmons. I was like, nah, I'm getting out of here. And one of my favorite teachers, and shout out to Ms. Bailey, she must have saw that light in me, and she's like, Andrea, you got to get out of Boston. You got to go to HBCU. And which I did, and shout out to her because she was really pushing HBCUs. And she had, I want to say, a niece that went to HBCU. Then come to find out, a lot of my teachers went to HBCUs, and they were just amazing, dope teachers. And when they heard that I was going to attend an HBCU or was looking into one, they was like, oh, bet, yeah, we're going to definitely sign off on your letter of recommendation. So like I said, I got accepted on the spot to Bethune-Cookman. My mom was like, you're not going there. That is too far. We don't have family in Daytona Beach. And we did have family in Florida, but she was like, no, you need to go pick a place in which you have family close by. So that year I also to applied for Tuskegee Hampton. And I remember I had the flu and I got into Tuskegee. It was around before Christmas break of 2000. I graduated 2001. I was like, forget the rest of them schools. And plus, I had got scholarship and grants to go to Tuskegee. I was like, I'm going. Peace out, right? So eventually, I made it to Tuskegee. And so this is how like the brown girl from Boston got birth. And of course, you have orientation. You're there the first week when it's dead hot. I mean, the heat is insufferable in that part of Alabama. And, you're in your orientation group. And so you got to, of course, introduce yourself. As soon as I open my mouth, you're not from here. Where you from? I'm from Boston. There's Black people in Boston. That was always the running joke. Or, you're a brown girl from Boston. So shout out to my folks in my orientation group. So hence why years later, I ended up naming my blog Brown Girl from Boston. And man, going to a HBCU, you talking about the history, the culture. We already know about, I think we wore this word out, but Black history, Black excellence. But, being a brown girl from Boston, I had to adjust. I had to adjust my mindset. I had to adjust like I am worthy of being here because Tuskegee does have this reputation of, I don't want to say the word, but I'm going to say the word of elitism as one of the Black, Ivy League, because it's up there. It's the number 3 HBCU. It's always in the rankings with your Howards, your Morehouse, Spelman, and whenever that's you, let's say, tell people, oh, I'm a graduate of Tuskegee University, people be like, oh my God. I remember, sidebar, my parents' teacher, I went to my dad's 50th class reunion, and one of my parents told their teacher, hey, our daughter graduated from Tuskegee. This lady came over to me almost in tears, was like, are you the one that graduated from Tuskegee? And I was like, oh, yes. And she was like, oh my God, like she hugged me. You thought I was a celebrity. And I seen this quote that says, those that attended HBCUs in your family are the celebrities. And that's true. When my uncle and aunt moved me in to my dorm, like my uncle cried on campus, right? Because of just, you feel that camaraderie, you feel that Black pride, you feel that history, that once again, that legacy on campus. And so, once again, I have to get used to a slower pace because Tuskegee is definitely in a rural. So you talking about a girls coming from Boston in which I can get on the T, go to all these places, without a car, even though I have my license. So now I gotta figure out, oh my God, how do I go get my hair done, get my nails done? Because yes, I was that freshman. I was getting my hair done, getting my nails done. I'm gonna have to get on a shuttle. And at this time, Montgomery Mall, we would have to go to Montgomery Mall, which is like 30 minutes. It's defunct now. Just to go shopping. And so, my mom came down, she's like, oh, we gotta get you a car because we couldn't have a car for freshman year. So anyways, have to get used to the different slang because I'm going to school with people from New Orleans. I'm going to school with people from Chicago, Detroit, California. Oh my God, California people was so deep. Learning the different slang, learning different dances, learning how people do things differently, right? Knowing what classes to take, not taking the 8 o'clock class. You want to be on the yard from 12 to 1. So all these different things I had to learn and unlearn from being a brown girl from Boston, but also too holding on to it as well. So, like I said, it felt like home. And I've been living in Alabama on and off since 2001. And we'll save, how do I get the on and off part for like over 20 years. So it's been a journey. I'm a homeowner in Alabama. I really love living in Alabama. I know people are like, oh my God, but the racist history, the history is also rich here because Alabama is also to um, indigenous. It's an indigenous motherland as well, in which, I have indigenous blood. It's also the home to where the civil rights movement was started. It's also, for me, the home of resiliency. Alabama is beautiful. If y'all ever come to visit, it's like all this different terrain. You have where I live at, I'm surrounded by beautiful mountains. It's just beautiful. That's like northeast Alabama. Beautiful waterfalls that I've been to here in Alabama. I've been to places in which they have, if you like wine, great winery. Um, you can go down to, let's say, parts of Montgomery. You got the Alabama River. Remember the Montgomery Bar in which Uncle and them did they want to with the people there? You have that part in which you could take a boat cruise. You can go to EJI, the amazing museum that tells the history of Black folks and just not just Alabama, but just even globally of Black people and just all the injustices and also to all the great work people are doing. You can go down to South Alabama to beautiful beaches. And the crazy part about it is, as long as I've been living in Alabama, I have never been to any other beaches in Alabama. Like you have Gulf Shores, you have Perdido Beach. I have it in Orange Beach, and I have family down there, and never been to those beaches, which is wild to even say that because I always go to the beaches in Florida, so I'm gonna have to go to the beaches in Gulf Shore. But I say this to say, oh, and don't also forget for my Mobile people, they probably want me to shout this out. And New Orleans people, don't beat me up. Mardi Gras started in Mobile. Y'all can do y'all research, fight amongst yourselves. But that's just a little history part because y'all know I love me some history. I love me some history. So this is getting long with it. So to wrap things up, hopefully you all are still with me. Share, have you ever been to Alabama before? If you would like to visit, what parts you would like to visit? What do you know about Alabama? So I want to hear from you all. So of course, in my heart to heart, I'm still a brown girl from Boston, but I'm also a brown girl who reclaimed the South or claimed the South. I'm also my parents answer prayers because they probably didn't think in their wildest dreams or anybody in my family would think that, oh, Andrea is going to go to a HBCU and especially Tuskegee, and had a privilege of graduating from Tuskegee and a double privilege of going back and teaching there for 4 years, right? And also, too, I like to say this: you can be born up north and still be rooted in the South. There's nothing wrong with being a northern girl with southern roots. Also, too, you can honor your parents' decision to leave and still choose to return. So I felt like my parents and I, we have a similar story of making our pilgrimage. My parents did the reverse. They moved from Alabama to Boston. I moved from Boston to Alabama. So you see how that return is. And also too, that's not going backwards. Coming to Alabama didn't go backwards for me. I know people be like, "Oh my God, I can't believe people move, from up north and to the south." No, it's just reclaiming your roots and planting new roots, and that's okay. And it's okay to reclaim your story. So, like I said, I didn't just move to Alabama. I answered the call, a legacy. And so, like I said, I want to hear from you. Where are your roots? Have you ever felt pulled back to a place your family left behind? Drop your city, your hometown, give them a shout out, or your ancestral connection in the comments. So let's celebrate our stories together. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more Brown Girl wisdom, more storytelling, and of course, unapologetic truth. Much love and light to you all. Peace.